Hello, everybody. And welcome back once again to your Wednesday night webinar. I am Patrick McGrath, Chief Clinical Officer at OCD, online platform for the treatment of obsessive compulsive and related disorders. It is chilly down here in the basement today. I got to tell you, I know it's getting close to summer, but it's still cold up here. Anyway, hope all is well with everyone. If you're looking for treatment for OCD, check us out at nocd.com or treatmyocd.com. We'd be happy to talk to you. We've got reps standing by to do an intake with you, and we take insurances across the US, and we also work in Canada and the UK and Australia as well too. So let us know what we can do for you. And let's get into some of our Q&A. Shay says that you're having a relapse in OCD. It's been relationship OCD, but now you're engaged and you're having a theme change. And it's going to be about, what if you were to become a mom? Will you be a good mom? Will your OCD be bad when you're pregnant or after pregnancy? How will you be able to handle all this? You've always wanted to be a mom, but with where you are in this darkness right now of the OCD, it feels impossible. Boy, OCD does like to poop on a parade, doesn't it? I mean, it's like the Clydesdales leading the march down the parade and just dropping poop bombs everywhere where everyone is marching. And having been in marching band in high school, I can tell you, you got to dodge those Clydesdale poop bombs because they're significant, let me say. So that is kind of what OCD is. It's a Clydesdale taking a big old dump in the St. Patrick's Day parade. And, we can't predict the future, Shay. That is for sure. But what we can do is take a look at the fact that OCD tells you that it can predict the future and that it knows exactly what it's going to be like. Now, it's interesting that the future that OCD predicts is absolutely only the worst case scenario future. No one with OCD has ever said to me, my OCD is telling me, boy, I'm really going to be a great mom, and I'm just going to have the best kid in the world, and my relationship is just going to strengthen a ton once we have this baby. And I'll tell you what, it's making me really, really excited to have a kid. Yeah, boy, damn this OCD for giving me such information. I'll tell you, because to live with that is hell. I mean, boy, just what terrible thing. Nope, OCD doesn't do that, right? It's always the absolutely worst case scenario that anyone could ever come up with or find. And to that I say, go to hell, OCD, because you love, again, to be the Clydesdale poop in the parade that everybody is trying to march in. So Shay, and everyone else listening, let me ask you a question. Do we actually have to believe anything that OCD says? Is anything that OCD has told you actually true? Or does OCD just really love an absolutely worst case scenario, and therefore all OCD is going to do is give you just the worst, crappiest, awfulest, horriblest advice ever of all time? And my hope is going to be that you recognize that, yep, that's exactly what is going to happen, right? We absolutely know just how awful and horrible and crappy OCD is, right? We know that it is going to give you this very message that being a mom will be impossible. Being pregnant will be terrible. You could do things that would be harmful to your child. And why wouldn't you feel in a place of darkness hearing messages like that, right? Unless you get good treatment and you realize, wait a minute, hold on a second. Just because OCD tells me something doesn't mean I have to believe a thing it says whatsoever. I mean, if OCD was great at advice giving, well, you shouldn't talk to me. You should just talk to OCD. But just imagine what this show would be like if the advice given followed what OCD suggested. My response to you, Shay, would be, you know what, Shay? You're absolutely right. Probably going to be the worst mom ever. It's going to be the worst pregnancy ever. Probably have a demonic child. Probably be the worst, most horrible child ever known to be conceived existing in the world. So, yep, Shay, have no children. That is such an amazingly great idea. I mean, that would be what I would be telling you if OCD were actually true. Right? But I don't believe it to be true. And I hope that you too will recognize that just because you hear this as an option doesn't mean that that's the way it is going to go. So, Shay, keep that in mind. And if you need to work with someone on that, please do so. But don't let the turd bombs that OCD throws into the parade stop you from marching. Okay? There's always a way around. Gerald says, I've been getting weird phrases in my head a lot lately when I'm talking to an elderly relative or someone I don't want to hurt in any way, like, damn you. If I don't interrupt them with a phrase like keep calm or a wink, they don't stop, and I feel like I want to say them to hurt the person I actually want to be okay. The problem is that the blinking and the phrase keep calm feel compulsive, but the truth is that they are the only way to stop the bad words, which then make me feel guilty. Advice. Well, they do sound compulsive the way you're describing it. And why do the bad words need to stop? Right? I mean, truly, just because we think things, does that mean that they will happen or that they are terrible, awful, horrible things? You may not like the topic. You may not like the subject. I understand that, Gerald. Believe me, I get that part. But I also carry around a card in my wallet, and I don't know if my parents are listening tonight. They do once in a while. If they do, they can feel free to confirm on here if they want to. But I do carry around a card in my wallet that says, I hope my parents die tonight, please God. And there's a 666 on the card as well, too. And Gerald, the reason I carry that card around in my wallet is because I was working with someone almost 20 years ago who had intrusive thoughts about what if I think something negative about my parents and then they die and I'll be the cause of them unless I say a prayer, because only by saying a prayer will they stay alive. So I said, well, I'm willing to work on this if you are with you. And I don't give ERP exercise to people that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. So I wrote out a card. I bought a car recently. So I grabbed the card from the car dealership and I wrote on it, I hope my parents die tonight, please God, and put a 666 on it. And it has been in there for 20 years. Now my parents are still alive. So, Jero, how come I haven't hurt them yet? Why hasn't that phrase harmed them? Because I will tell you what, Jero, I've done no compulsion to neutralize that whatsoever. Absolutely none. And guess what? My parents time about it being there. And they still say, ha ha, we are alive. You have not killed us with the card. And I say, one day that card will come true. Now, when they die, which they will, right? And again, if they're listening, they're aware. They're not good. In fact, I'm the kind of guy that comes from a family that talks about, now, when I die, here's what I'd like at my funeral. I mean, we have these conversations since I was a child. I've known exactly the types of flowers my mother would or would not like to have, and what song is not allowed at her wake, and all of these things. So to us, it's just normal to have these kinds of conversations, right? It's what we do. Are these bad words, Jero, as you say? No. They're intrusive thoughts, or images or urges, but I don't think they're bad words whatsoever. I don't think there's such a thing as a bad word or a bad phrase or a bad image or a bad urge whatsoever. Otherwise, if I did, then I'd be quite the judgy psychologist by telling everyone who has these with OCD, ooh, that's bad. Oh, that one? You have that? Oh, wow. That is bad. I mean, I wouldn't go telling that to anybody else now, No, that's not what happens. That's not what you do. That's not how you approach this, right? So, Jero, I want you to work to be more like the people who treat OCD, who can recognize that, yeah, well, all right, so you have things pop in your head. Big deal. Will they cause anything to happen? Will they harm anyone? Meh. If words were that dangerous, no one would be alive. Because all I would have to say is, I want to be the only one left alive right now. Go. And that's it. It's just me. No one else left. Not even any more reason to do this here webinar, because I'm the only person left, and therefore I'm just talking to myself. And yet, new comments come in. So that did not work. My thoughts did not make something happen. I am not that powerful. Michael says, is it possible to share where I can find research on the benefits of ERP for anxiety? There are a lot of people who deny it, and I'd like to be prepared next time. Of course, Michael. Go to PubMed and check out exposure and response prevention therapy. Just you can go right online and type it in there, and you will see all sorts of great research articles about ERP for OCD and anxiety. Jack says, I don't know what to do. My life isn't going anywhere. OCD has made me feel stupid, afraid of everything, constantly anxious, and inferior to everyone else. My life has been limited in so many ways. Jack, I'm going to bet that there's a lot of people on here who feel that way or have felt that way at some point in time. Now, for any of you listening who have OCD has made Jack feel stupid, afraid of everything, constantly anxious, and inferior to everyone else. Why would we want to hang out with OCD? Why would we want to believe anything OCD says? Why would we want to trust the judgment of such a thing that leads us to feel stupid, afraid of everything, constantly anxious, and inferior to everyone else? One reason I think it happens is due to the very convincing and conniving nature of obsessive compulsive disorder, who does send these types of messages out to people. And yet, I'd like us all to practice not listening to OCD anymore. I think that'd be awesome. If we could all agree, maybe by the end of tonight, we're going to work on not listening to a thing OCD says. Because, again, it's just a Clydesdale shitting in the parade is all that it is. It's not really worth much of anything. Can we move on from what OCD says, Jack? I mean, Jack, there are people who still have OCD, who have gone through treatment, who still hear all sorts of things from OCD, but have come around at the back and have been like, you know what? OCD has done nothing but lie to me. And it still does nothing but lie to me. It still sends these lies to me. But here's what I'm never going to do again. I am never going to listen to a thing that OCD says again. You know why? Because it's not great advice. In fact, it's the worst advice giver ever. Imagine a newspaper column. For those of you who are young, a newspaper is this thing that used to come to your home every day. It was an actual rolled up multiple pieces of paper with articles printed on them. Actually, there wasn't a screen or anything like that. You actually had to read something and hold it and fold it and all these things. And there's a column in there called Dear Abby, and people would write in to Abby, and they would give questions, and Abby would give advice. Imagine a Dear OCD column. Dear OCD, I'm wondering what I should do in this situation. And OCD would, of course, give you the absolute worst case scenario advice at all. And then say, by the way, my advice is true and real, so you should really listen to it. And you would go, oh, well, I mean, it says it's true and real, so it must be true and real. Why would it ever lie to me? Therefore, I'm going to have to follow what Dear OCD just said because, well, it told me the truth. So, I mean, why shouldn't I believe that? I'm always interested in the comments if anybody wants to put in. Here's a great piece of advice that OCD actually gave me and made my life better. If anyone wants to try to throw that in, go right ahead. I don't think we'll see anybody doing it, but if you really believe that OCD made your life better, just all I want is one example of it. No one's ever given me one, 25 years, but maybe tonight will be the night. Maybe tonight will finally be the night where someone will say, hey, I actually listened to my OCD. And I'll tell you what, it sure made everything better by doing that. Okay. Why do I keep fearing that it's me when I know deep down it's not how do I start to not care? Maybe there was a little typo in there, but I get the notion here that are you fearing that it's me versus your OCD, and how do you start to not care about that? Well, I think that what you have to do is you have to live it. Right? You really have to go out there and live that very thing. If you tell yourself it's OCD and it's not you, but you still act as if it's OCD, well, you're just going to follow everything OCD wants you to do. So I don't even know if I want to worry about the distinction of is it me or my OCD, because that can go down a rabbit hole that we don't even necessarily want to go down to. People can get so stuck just into thinking that, oh boy, is this me or is this my OCD? Boy, well, let's spend the next hour trying to figure out how would I truly know if this is me or if this is my OCD, blah, 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 blah. Let's walk away from that. Let's get out of there. And let's just go to, hey, everybody has weird intrusive thoughts that happen once in a while. But just because they do doesn't mean that they have to follow them or that they have to mean anything. So I'm going to just go on doing the things that I want to do. And I'm going to recognize that now and then I'm going to have doubts and uncertainties about them. And they're going to throw jabs at me. And I'm going to be like, yeah, whatever. Okay, moving on. I'm going to live that life that I want to live and not that life that OCD wants me to live. Okay. If your goal is to have 100% certainty that I know what I'm thinking and that this is my choice and not OCD's choice, I can't give that to you. I really wish that I could, but I don't know how to do that. I don't have 100% certainty that anything I'm telling you tonight is worth a hill of beans. I'd go 99.8, but I could be wrong. It's possible, right? So you could say, well, he's not even 100% certain, but I don't have 100% certainty about anything. I mean, I don't know if I'll make it up the stairs after this webinar to go get some dinner. I could trip and fall and crack my head open and die bleeding on the staircase, and no one will find me for 4 days because I live by myself. So that'll smell pretty bad. I have no idea. I live with that doubt. I live with that uncertainty. And that's what I want others to do as well, too. And OCD says, not acceptable. Nope. Can't do that. That's wrong. That's bad. That's terrible. Need to have certainty. Need absolute 100% Gotta know. Well, that doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. James says, I'm on my mom's home phone plan. You decided to get permission to get extra data for $5 a month. They said it's been confirmed, and now you're worrying with your OCD that what if there's other fees that hasn't been told you, even though there isn't what's good ERP. Well, we wait. We don't call. We don't ask. When the bill comes, we can look at it once. Oh, there's the confirmation. It was $5. Great, cool. And then we pay the bill. And then we're done and we move on. That's what's good ERP. I've never once suggested fretting as a treatment for something. Maybe it was more than $5. Maybe I should think more about that. Maybe I should spend some more time researching that. Maybe I should call and ask once again, just to be sure. May I get the last 7 bills and then compare it to this one? No, that's not where we want to go. Right. So again, what's our theme? We live with doubt. We live with insecurity. We learn that we can handle it. Those are the things that we want to do. That's what has to happen. You took an OCD test, Jefferson, and answered truthfully with what you're experiencing. It says you have OCD, which was shocking. Should you show it to your counselor because you knew there was something wrong? I think that's potentially beneficial, right? To say, hey, took this online test and found this, and it's suggesting this. The other piece too might be that if you've been in counseling for a while and you haven't seen the improvements that you would like to have seen, a general kind of talk therapy, which might be what you're doing, wouldn't be the thing that I would suggest for obsessive compulsive disorder. That usually involves things like talking a lot about the problem, which OCD would love to do, by the way. And it can involve a lot of safety behaviors like teaching you diaphragmatic breathing or muscle relaxation or things of that nature. And so, Jefferson, I would hope that if it turns out you have OCD, you get yourself into the right kind of therapy. And if you're looking for that, hey, guess who sponsors tonight? NoCD, an online platform for the treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder. So check us out at nocd.com if that's something that might be helpful to you and might be interesting. Savannah says, I haven't been diagnosed yet, but your insurance isn't covered yet either. So, and then Angela, looks like you have an insurance question as well too. Yeah, boy, insurance, I'll tell you. It can be the toughest things, right? Not every insurance plan covers NoCD. We actively are working on more and more of them to do it. And we're working toward that. There are some more government-based plans that might not even allow you to go outside and use anybody who isn't covered by the government plan. That's a government issue, not a provider issue like NoCD or anybody else for that matter as well too. So it takes time for companies to get credentialed with government plans, but I can tell you that's something we're working on and looking into. But it's not fast. So hopefully you can hang tight, and we're going to work on what we can. But if you're also looking for providers who take other insurances, there's other lists out there as well, too. You can check out the International OCD Foundation, and they also have a listing of all sorts of therapists who treat OCD, and some of them may take various insurances that we don't take yet here at NoCD. Happy83 says, hi, Dr. McGrath. Hello, Happy83. At the grocery store, while preparing for a work event, you paused to grab a self-serve coffee. Initially, I disinfected my hands before I began shopping. I didn't disinfect them again after shopping before touching the coffee cups. My hand touched several cups while trying to get just one. Very anxious someone may get sick. Well, they may. It's possible, I suppose. We have no guarantees in life. That OCD tells us it would be great to have. I cannot give you the assurance that you did not infect anyone. I don't know. I do know this: when I go shopping, I touch things and I pick them off the counter and I put them back and I take them on the shelves. I read a label, I put it back, and I don't disinfect my hands before I go shopping. And I don't after I leave and come home. Beth, if you're listening, is probably going, but Beth, we're going to get you there that you don't do that to you. And hey, I guess we all take some risks, right? Now, Happy, I'm also wondering if on the way to the grocery store you drove there, because you also therefore took a risk of running an entire group of children over who might have been crossing the street at the time. Happy, this will sound weird to ask, and I'm not being flippant about it whatsoever. Happy, what's worse, getting a few people potentially a cold or the flu from the coffee, or running over 7 children crossing the street? Which is worse? Because it sounds like one you didn't care about at all or even think about, and the other one you can't get out of your head. And I just say that to show what I believe to be the absolute ridiculousness of OCD, right? I'll drive, which I know statistically has consequences. Okay. We know the actual consequences. And OCD loves to live in the unknown, right? But can we ever know how many people we might have infected from the coffee cups that we touched after we didn't disinfect our hands in such a way that we feel we should have done? Ooh, don't know an answer there. Let's run it through the OCD calculator. Beat carry the 12 minus 7. 9,000 people are dead now due to the fact that I touched 3 other coffee cups while at the store by getting my own self-serve coffee as well. Always a worst case scenario, right? Absolutely always a worst case scenario. As I said earlier, folks, let's work on not listening to everything OCD says, okay? Savannah says, I'm struggling with hoarding. Like, I find it difficult to keep things tidy and let go of things. So hoarding is fascinating in the sense that many people think hoarding is a problem of gathering up things. Hoarding is actually a problem of discarding things, because you can get to a point where you have no more room in your home and you can't actually gather anything more and still have hoarding because you're not discarding anything. So Savannah, there's great therapy out there for hoarding, and I would encourage you to reach out to a therapist for hoarding. By the way, we do that at NoCD too, so check us out at nocd.com. We do train our therapists to work with hoarding as well. Flexania says, Dr. McGrath, I invent and assign meaning to numbers, infinite angles, and cannot stop thinking or inventing meanings, dates, times, etc. Is ERP as simple as don't assign any meaning or significance? Boy, I wish it was. I mean, hey, Flexania, don't do that anymore. All right, thank you. Well, there we go. Another cure in the box. I tell you what, I'm 75 for 75 today. I told 75 people to stop it, and 75 people stopped their OCD today. I mean, look at that. I'm a 1-session cure. No, it's not that easy. Really wish that it was, but it's not. If we could just stop things, I don't have a job, right? So it's about learning how to not care about that, or to assign other meanings to things and see what actually happens. Right? Every time I see a number 12, I will lose a toe. Let's see if that happens. At 3:57 every day, I will have the urge to stand up on my desk at work and crow like a rooster. Let's see if that happens. We can assign all sorts of things and meanings to stuff if we want to, but they don't have to actually mean anything. Our OCD could tell us that they do, but I mean, who wants to listen to OCD? It's a It's a horse taking a crap on a parade. I mean, so why would we want to do anything like that? Right? So. Lara asks, can you make a video explaining OCD to family and friends? Yours is relationship OCD. You find it impossible to explain, and so keep it to yourself, which you think makes checking worse. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do it right now. We'll do it live. If anyone knows what that is, you're laughing right now. And let's just see where it goes. So for Lara's family and friends who are asking about what's going on or maybe aren't aware, relationship OCD is this thing where OCD attacks the thing that you love the most. And if your relationship is the most important thing in the world to you, then OCD is going to attack all your relationships. And it's going to put doubts and insecurities into relationships. These are not rational issues. These are not logical issues. These are emotional what if types of questions, as in, what if I don't love them enough? What if I'm not respectful enough? What if we're not the right people for each other? What if? And so OCD says, well, you can solve that by doing these compulsive behaviors or mental acts as a way to neutralize some of those what if types of questions. And so therefore you could do things like test your partner to see how they respond and say, oh, good, they passed that test. Okay. But what if this? No. And then I'll test them again. And your partner at first might be like, oh, honey, but after a while they'll be like, it's getting a little annoying. And then they might not want to talk to you. And then your relationship OCD is going to go, look, they're not talking to you anymore. Test them more to see where they're at. And you're going to go down this rabbit hole of just nowhere that you want to go, because OCD will say to you, there's always more information to be gathered and there's always more tests to be done. And the reality of it is the very thing that you do to satisfy OCD can be the very thing that interferes with living the life that you want to live, because you're no longer living the life you want to live. You're living the life that OCD wants you to live. And if that's the case, it's not good for anybody. So the goal of treatment is going to be, sure, OCD throws these things into my head and I have these doubts and these insecurities about these things and these relationships. And I'm going to recognize that that's what OCD does, because that is the nature of OCD to do such a very thing. And it's not about me stopping having any of those intrusive thoughts or images and urges. It's about learning I can handle that. I don't need to do anything about it. I'm going to move on from it. And that's what's important to do. There you go, Laura. Hope that's helpful. This will be out on YouTube tomorrow. You can go right to the, it looks like about 32-minute in moment of tonight, and you'll be able to play that for friends and family. Hello, friends and family, by the way. I hope that helped. Love is 515 says, how does one stay consistent in not giving heed to these thoughts? Practice. I mean, once in a while we're going to slip. It's going to happen now and then, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to practice this. I want you to learn that you can handle these things. That's what's so very, very important, right? It's almost like a skill to be able to walk away from the things that are going on in your head. But there's plenty of people out there in the world who have all sorts of thoughts, who either go, well, that was weird, and move on from them, or who write them down and go, oh, I'm totally using that for a horror film that I'm going to write, and then get paid millions of dollars for them. So, a thought's just a thought. It's what you do with it. Insane Coconut, good to see you again, asks, how do you do ERP on your own? What are the do's and don'ts? You hate stress so much. Well, first of all, I'd always suggest, if you have the opportunity to work with someone, to try to do it, because working with someone can really be helpful in the sense they can help you find if you're doing any subtle safety behaviors or compulsions or something like that. So it doesn't hurt to try some sessions with a professional, just to be sure that they can help guide you and make sure that you're doing a hierarchy well and you're putting it in at the right levels and you're not overstimulating yourself or something like that. But when you move on from that, and if you get that and you've got a good situation, you just got to keep practicing. You got to do ERP every day. You don't want OCD to get a foothold back into your life again. So you just want to practice doing anything opposite of what OCD wants for you. And that's the way that you're really going to get better. That's what you got to do. Mudbug says, does anyone have issues with obsessively skin picking? So one of the things we also treat, just so you know, is excoriation or skin picking at NoCD. And there's a habit reversal therapy that you can do for that. And so Mudbug, if you're looking for help with that, check us out at nocd.com. We'd be happy to help you. Y2K Babe says, you've been doing it for 12 years, basically since you got acne. So yes, there are other people out there. Let's see. Beth is here again. Welcome. Hello, everyone. All the hellos now. I'm finally getting to when the thing started. Everyone had written all those other questions before we even got on tonight. All of you people who just are competing to get in there. Oh, look at that. How can you stop the thought spiral? Chelsea asks. Well, by doing exposure and response prevention therapy. That's how. I mean, the thought spiral is going to continue to go the more that you give into the compulsion. And when you allow the thought to be there without doing a compulsion to neutralize it and learn that you can handle it, the spiral goes away. So ultimately, that's where you want to go. Zach says, how do I practice ERP with suicidal themed OCD? I constantly have the thought, kill myself, and it seems to be getting worse. You've had it for nearly 25 years. So, Zach, first of all, I would highly suggest you work with a professional on this and not just try to do this on your own, because that can feel so very overwhelming, especially when it's something very personal like that against yourself. We treat suicidal OCD a great deal, and I've worked a lot with people who have this kind of thing. And what I would want to do, Zach, is take a look at all the various safety behaviors that you're doing and the compulsions that you're doing as a way to try to prevent yourself from harming yourself. And you may think, well, I have to do that or else I'll harm myself. And I would contend, to me, OCD is telling you a lie that you're going to harm yourself. And these compulsions are done and you attribute the fact that you're safe to them, when I don't think that that's actually the case. And I would want to work with you on getting you to recognize that you can still live the life that you want to live without doing these compulsions. Even if some of these thoughts are there in the background, you'd be able to acknowledge and move on from them. That's really what you need to do. So, Zach, reach out, check us out. I think we could help you with that. Mirren says, I just broke up with my girlfriend, and because I couldn't stop obsessing over your ex, but you feel guilty for even thinking about your ex, so you thought it was wrong to stay with your current girlfriend because of this. Well, Mirren, your other option is work with a therapist on that, because maybe there's some things that you can do to help you deal with that, and then you don't have to break up with this person. Hopefully, if it just happened, maybe you could bring them even into a therapy session and have them understand what's going on and let them know that it's not like you've wanted to think about your ex. Maybe this is some kind of obsession issue. Maybe there's intrusive thoughts about it, something like that. Could even be other things. Who knows? So I would work with a professional to kind of get you some help in this, because this sounds what we call ego dystonic, as in unwanted types of things. And therefore, why break up with your current relationship if the things that you're having about your previous relationships are totally unwanted? AKG says, how do you overcome the habits that are set so rigidly as a result of giving into compulsions? Through response prevention. That's how. That's the only way we know how. It's now hours of compulsions avoidance daily and has become a way of life. Cannot change habits or stop compulsions. And if it's hours and hours, that's where higher levels of care can come in. So there are things like intensive outpatient programs, partial hospital programs, even residential treatment centers that are out there to be able to work with you for hours a day, since this is going on for hours a day. And they can really help you figure out ways to intervene so that you're not giving in to the OCD, and you could work toward living the life that you want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live, because that's not a very fun life. So we want to get you to move on from that. Why does your OCD seem so random? Like sometimes your brain will obsess over something and the next day something doesn't bother me at all. OCD is a fickle little thing, and sometimes it can do some of those things. Usually there's some themes going on, though, or things within those themes are pretty common. So maybe that's the case. But also, if something catches your eye today and becomes the flavor of the day, that may suddenly seem like, now that would actually be the worst case scenario. That thing yesterday, boy, I thought it was bad, but it's not as bad as this thing. And so really got to work on this one right now. So that could be what's going on too. Casper says, basically, I have a fear that I will keep holding your breath until it causes brain or heart damage, and it worries me that it will kill me over time. So you have a fear that you will do that. I'm wondering if you've actually done that. So again, here's one of those things where, what if I were to do something that would be harmful to myself? And what I would like you to do is reach out to a therapist, because you can do great ERP to this kind of thing, and you can learn to recognize that you don't have to believe everything that pops in your head. And I'd be interested in what some of the compulsions are that you're doing as well too, so that we can work on stopping some of those. Andrew says, why does my OCD make me hear noises? I don't know if you're talking about a tinnitus or something like that. And I know that OCD doesn't make you hear noises, but you might be checking constantly for noises and hear things that you wouldn't normally pay attention to, because you're so attuned in to see if you can hear something that you hear things. I remember after my wife died, how noisy this house was. I didn't realize how noisy this house was, because I was always hearing her move around upstairs, or the nurses and everybody who came into the house all the time. And when it was just me in the house and there was no one else around, I'd hear all the creaks and cricks and cracks and everything that the house makes. And I was like, God, I'm constantly hearing noises. It's just, they're everywhere. Why is there always noise going on? But it's just living in a house that settles and moves in the weather and expands and contracts and all these kinds of things as well too. I'd never really heard all of those noises before, but they were already there. So I'm wondering if that might be happening to you, Andrew, if that's the case. Can OCD cause guilt from past experiences? Thank you, Katla. Whenever there's a can OCD question, the answer is always yes. So sure, why not? I mean, OCD doesn't just use anxiety; it uses shame and guilt and disgust and all sorts of other things as well too. So yes. Andrew says, how do I stop a panic anxiety attack fast? Well, I don't know how to do it fast, in the sense that, there's no magic cure just to stop it once it started. But here's what I would suggest. If you don't want them to be so bothersome to you, I would suggest practicing something that we call interoceptive exposures. And interoceptive exposures are exposures to things that are purposely uncomfortable, right? And that is bodily sensations. And the bodily sensations that are purposely uncomfortable are things like running in place, hyperventilating, breathing through straws, spinning in a chair. We have people purposely do these things and learn, I can handle doing those things. I don't need to be afraid of those things. So that's what I would suggest doing. And you can work with a specialist who does interoceptive exposures to help you with that. We do some of that here at NoCD if you're interested. Rick says, how do you know when it's OCD? Well, I'm not going to be able to give you an answer that will probably be very satisfying here, because you'll want 100% way to know that it's OCD, right? So I'm not going to be able to give you a 100% answer that you want. Here's what I know for OCD. If you're having things pop into your head that you find to be intrusive, that cause you a lot of anxiety or distress or shame or guilt or disgust, and you have to neutralize them with a mental act or a behavior, then I've got a pretty good idea that obsessive compulsive disorder is going on. That's how I know when it's OCD, right? So if it meets the criteria and it meets the definition, that's good to me for being OCD. That's probably not satisfying enough though, but how can you be sure is probably what you're thinking, but I'm not going to go there, right? So let's see. Why does OCD come about? Why does it onset even? Well, I wish we knew. There's a ton of research being done in that area right now, actually, for people trying to figure that very thing out. Why does OCD come about? But there's genetic components and there's environmental stressors as well too. And when you have the right combination of genetic components with environmental stressors, you can have kind of the primordial soup, shall we say, for obsessive compulsive disorder. Not everybody who has the genetic predisposition for OCD will get OCD. Not everybody who experiences a stressor will get OCD. But with the right combination of genetic predisposition and stressor, OCD is possible. And you may wonder, well, how do I know if I have those things? You don't. One of those mysteries we have to live with, unfortunately, that we don't like. So we learn how to handle that. We learn how to live with that and deal with that. Armand says, why do OCD groinal responses happen and how do we deal with them? I'm going to say this. They happen because you don't want them to happen. And therefore, you're hoping to not have them. And because of that, you're going to be groinally checking yourself constantly to see if you feel any tinglies or changes or anything down there. And OCD is going to interpret even the slightest little thing as being, there's one. There's a groinal. Shouldn't have had that happen. And then what? Now there's shame and guilt and disgust and everything about all the groinals going on. How do you deal with them? You allow them to be there and you move on and you live your life and you do whatever you want to do, even if you have a groinal. Because why does it matter what goes on in the middle region of your body? And how is that important for anything going on in your life whatsoever? Okay. I mean, adolescents have lots of groin experiences going on as they're going through puberty. Should we attribute every single erection or lubrication that an adolescent have as to, oh, that must mean something? Or could a strong breeze cause it to happen for some people? Yeah, all right. So we don't have to attribute meaning to everything, everyone. It's not necessary. It's not required. OCD says, though, oh, yes, it is, you idiot doctor. You don't know what you're talking about, moron. And I say, screw you, OCD. I'm right, you're wrong. And OCD says, no, you're wrong, and I'm right. And then we just start, beating each other up. But I would contend, no matter what OCD says, meaning is not required on every experience. Sometimes things just happen. Plant Milk says, could you please share resources or even just things people can do at home to assist with their OCD journey? Affordability is a major contender, especially in this day, of why so many people can't seek professional help. And you understand why, due to the experience of those trying to help. But what can those of us do who need affordable therapy, medication, but can't afford help? We did a lot of that earlier today, so hopefully those answers were actually pretty helpful to you. But your goal is always to expose yourself to things that are uncomfortable and to not give in to doing compulsions. Those are the very things that are necessary, right? And so my hope would be that that's the thing to do. There's great books out there. There's great manuals out there about OCD. Hopefully they can be helpful. But even if you could do a few sessions with a therapist just to kind of get you help set up and moving along, I think that would be a real help. There's potentially therapists who provide sliding scales. At NoCD, we provide a payment plan for people to do sessions with. So there's options to take a look at and see if those might be helpful to you as well. Garrett says, I've been recently having worries about forcing emotions when thinking of loved ones and focusing on every word as I think it. Any advice? Thanks. Well, Garrett, is there a right or wrong emotion to have around a loved one is what I would ask. Because it sounds to me like you're saying here, yes, there are right emotions and there are wrong emotions. And therefore, I must force the right emotion. And when I'm working with someone, thinking about someone, talking to them, with them, whatever it is, I contend there's no such thing as a right emotion to have about anyone or anything, right? You have emotions. Be a human and have emotions. What's wrong with that? Unless OCD says, but there are emotions I shouldn't have, and there are things that I shouldn't feel. I wish we could walk away from that. That would be wonderful, because that to me is just simply not the case. It's a lie that OCD tells. Is it normal for, yes, Jim, I'm just going to say that before you even read your question. But anyway, is it normal for real event OCD to make you question whether or not it's OCD or not? Yeah, I'm going to stick with my first answer. Yeah, right there. Yes, absolutely. Valentina says, thank you for your hard work and efforts with NoCD. Oh, well, thank you. Your team has greatly helped you recover from horrible loop of obsessions and compulsions. You're almost 90% OCD free with your therapy. Well, thank you, Valentina. We really appreciate that very, very much. Elizabeth says, you have moral scrupulosity OCD. You can't tell if your thoughts reflect me or not, or if I keep having them. I think, how do I know if my thoughts, feelings reflect my character? Why do you need to know? Guess what people without OCD don't think about if their thoughts or feelings reflect their character? This is, Elizabeth, I'm glad you brought this up. This is a really, really classic OCD kind of question. How do I know if my thoughts and feelings reflect this? I will come back to you with, why do you need to know if that's the case? Why is that even important? No one without OCD cares about that, which will sound weird to anyone with OCD. Wait, because all of you with OCD listening are going to be like, wait a minute. Are you telling me that people without OCD don't constantly think about everything that they think about? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. They don't care. Don't care at all. Doesn't even matter to them. Not even a blip on the radar for them whatsoever. So, Elizabeth, classic OCD question here, right? My answer is going to be, I have no idea for you if your thoughts reflect you or not, nor do I think it matters. It doesn't really matter. Let's just have thoughts and images and urges and whatever else is, emotions and everything, and let's just live with them, right? Why does anything else other than that really count in this situation? Why does anything else other than that really actually matter? I'd contend it does not. Ivan says, I used to enjoy smoking weed, but you don't smoke anymore. Because every time your OCD multiplied by a factor of 10, you end up panicking. Is there anything short of dropping smoking that'd help? Well, if Ivan, you've got something here that you know you're doing, that every time you do it multiplies your OCD by 10, my first piece of advice is stop doing that thing. I mean, that I don't want to give you anything else short of that it's just don't do that thing anymore. Why do that? It would be like every time I take my finger and I bend it back to my wrist, I have shooting pains go on. Okay, guess what? Don't bend your finger back to your wrist anymore then, right? That would be one thing to stop doing. So, Ivan, as much as you like to maybe have some pot, if that's the result of it, I don't see why you'd want to keep doing it. Absolutely don't. So. Hashida says, can we use OCD perfectionism to enhance sports performance? No. We would never suggest OCD as a way to be better, right? Because you will never achieve it. And therefore, you'll just have to do more and more compulsions. And OCD will keep saying, oh, you're so close. Just another compulsion, just a few more compulsions. Everything will be good. So, no. And this goes back to the idea that, that we heard this during COVID a bunch of times. I did, at least, where I'd say what I do for a living and people would say, oh man, I wish I just had a little OCD that could really help me get through COVID. So Ashita, if some OCD were helpful, my job would be to prescribe it to people. I would go up to people and say, hey, looks like you're having a rough day. Have you thought about some OCD? Think it'd really be helpful here. Think it'd really add to your day, make your life a ton better, give you the juice that you need to get moving again. I think some OCD would be awesome for you. Why don't you come on over and I'll give you some obsessions to start with and give you some compulsions to get going on. And I think you'll see a good pick-me-up within minutes, if that's the case. Nope, not doing that. That'd be terrible. It's not happening whatsoever. Okay. Michelle says, how do I know if an obsession with someone as relationship OCD or something else like borderline personality disorder or another issue? Well, I'm curious, Michelle, if there's compulsions going on. If there are not compulsions going on, then we'd probably be looking at something else going on. So it probably is worth getting a good diagnostic assessment with someone to see what's actually happening, but they will check to see if there are compulsions happening. Jessame says, I started an OCD last week and I'm grateful for the diagnosis and excited for treatment. You've never felt in your life so understood. Just getting the diagnosis that brought you some relief after decades of self-imposed confusing torture. That's a great way to describe it. Confusing torture. Yes, absolutely. Orchid says, I feel the same. Can't even travel because I'm afraid of speed, highways, traffic. I'm afraid of flying as well, elevators, claustrophobic. You're afraid of everything, mostly staying home because you get super anxious and you go into fight or flight mode and you don't know how to control it. One of the things is, first of all, Orchid, getting to the point of recognizing we're not here to control it, right? OCD says things can be perfect. Everything can be controlled. I say control is an illusion. We're not here to control things. We're here to learn how to handle things. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to control things. Okay. So please recognize that. Our goal is not perfection. Our goal is not control. Our goal is I can learn to go with the flow. That's what we want to do. OCD says, not possible. Not something we should work on. Not going to happen. And yet, that's where we want to get to. Well, everyone, it's been a joyful hour with all of you once again. I hope that tonight has been fun for you. It has been a joy for me. We got people here from London. We got people from all over the place in the world here. So really, really, really cool to see so many folks here. My hope, of course, for all of you is that you work on taking some of the advice that we talked about and you put yourself out there and you challenge yourself and you go against what OCD tells you, right? Like HG, who says, today I'm wearing a pair of khaki shorts that I bought at the thrift store yesterday and you didn't wash them first. Awesome. Nice job. Right? That's the kind of stuff to get to doing, to move yourself in a direction of, you know what, OCD? I really do see you as a steaming pile of turd that is blocking the parade of life that I am on. And guess what, OCD? I've invested in a street cleaner who's going to walk in front of me and remove all the turds so that I can live my life. And we call that street cleaner response prevention, right? Instead of doing compulsions, we're just going to walk. Will the street cleaner clean everything? No, there's still going to be a little poop smear on the ground afterwards. And you know what we're still going to do? We're going to walk right over it. We're going to move on. We're going to live our life. And we're not going to let OCD screw up anything anymore. That's my hope for all of you. And if you're looking for help with that, check us out at nocd.com, right? We would love to help you. And we have care team members available to do free 15-minute calls with you. So check us out in the US and Canada and Australia and the UK. And thanks once again, as always, to my good friend Paul Melia for our great theme song that we have here as well. We'll see you again in a week, everybody. Have a great night.